time, something horrible has happened again. And so once again, we have to consider the insanity defense. It's much maligned, much misunderstood, but here's the way it works. We can observe that a person has committed an act, but in order to be convicted of a crime, or some crimes, or to be punished for crimes, you have to have what's called mens rea. You have to have a state of mind, or an intention, or a purpose. And the question becomes, was the person acting, did they have the capacity to form the kind of purpose that's envisioned by the law? Now, in terms of the insanity defense, we don't mean parochially that someone is crazy. We mean that the person was not capable of making the decision that the law prohibits. For example, what if someone doesn't realize that they're killing a person, to think they're doing something else because their mind is distorted, we wouldn't be able to convict them of murder. The other possibility is that because of the distorted way that people think, instead of convicting them of a very serious offense like murder, we would convict them of a lesser included offense, manslaughter, or we weaken the impact of what they're doing because they fail to be able to appreciate the substantial evil and nature of their acts. Now, most people think that if you're acquitted under the insanity defense, what happens is you're let go. That's not true. Actually, what happens to people who are acquitted because they're insane, they may be committed to a mental hospital where they will be held until the determination is made that they're no longer a danger to society. But in addition to the defense itself, the person has to be sane enough to participate in their own trial. So one of the first things that happens to someone who has mental problems, who gets in trouble, is that the system has to make a determination that they can understand and appreciate the nature of the legal proceeding they're engaged in. And sometimes the first stop for severely troubled people is that it's determined that they lack that capacity to be sane enough to go through a trial. So the first thing that happens is that they're committed to a mental hospital for some period where attempts will be made to reach them to a level where they can participate in a trial. And only after that's been done, whether it's done with medication or other techniques, they will then go to trial, and then we'll try to decide whether they could appreciate the nature of the acts they were engaged with at the time that they committed them. So that's how the insanity defense works. It's based on our belief that people should only be held morally accountable for acts that they committed essentially out of some state of free will with an understanding of the wrongness of the acts that they were committed in. If their mental or emotional states are such that they couldn't understand those things, we don't want to punish them. But at the same time, we don't, if they're a danger to society, to themselves or others, we don't want to release them, so they might be committed to a mental institution so that society could be made safe and they could be made whole. So in conclusion, the insanity defense is a limited defense. It's talked a lot about in the press, but it doesn't occur that much in real life. And it isn't that successful because there are very few people who meet very limited and technical requirements for failing to appreciate the nature of their acts and not having been able to conform themselves to the expectations of society. And even when those limited number of people arrive at that, they're not just released to go out on the street. They're frequently committed to mental hospitals for periods of time, in some cases longer than the penalties that were available for the crime.